My name is Nick Jarvis. I am the Chief Operating Officer at the League, and I wanted to help moderate this session because I often play the role that a lot of you do in your cities and towns, which is basically having to stay on top of everything that happens internally. So I see a lot of parallels there, and I'm happy to join you all today. We are going to have a panel from the UMCA. I'm not sure, are you all board members, or is it board, a mix of board and oh yes, it is the board. Great. We're just going to open it up for all of your questions. We'd ask you to use the raise your hand little button there to shoot you up to the top, and we can call on you, and then we can actually just talk without having to enter anything in the chat. We think this is the closest thing we can get to the in the hall networking sort of thing that we can do in a live event. So this is a really informal discussion. And our panel, I'll go ahead and introduce now. We have Annette Spenlove, who is also the representative from UMCA to the League board. She's an ex officio member of our board. We have Pam Spencer, Leanne Warnock, who has also served that League liaison role in the past, Cheryl Bodley, and Colleen Mulvey. So with that, I'll turn it over to Annette to get things started, and just go ahead and raise your hands and ask away. I hope everyone's enjoyed this virtual version of the conference. We hope it was really good, but we hope we'll never have to do it again so that we can all meet in person.
It's a bit weird.
With that, Annette?
Okay, let's just get started. Ask away, ask the questions, and hopefully we can answer or tell you where you need to go to get the correct answer. So go ahead.
Come on, guys.
Are they using the chat feature?
Oh, didn't look there. Nope, I don't have any in the chat.
No. You've got to have some questions, or they all got answered yesterday during our recorder's day. I'd like to know how some of you are doing your meetings right now. If you're back doing meetings in your council rooms, or if you're doing them virtual, or what are you doing?
So I can start that one. So while we're waiting for others to answer, I mean, we're doing mostly electronic with an anchor location so that people can come if they would like to, and they don't have to if they don't want to. So that's the option we're offering. We haven't had any public come yet. A couple staff members maybe, but no actual public has shown up. So that's how we're doing ours. We had to change our code. I don't know if people have realized that if they've got that electronic code in it, that they need to get that changed to match the state, what they changed in June. That's kind of important to get that in there, and especially emergency meeting information. So.
Do you have any questions on that?
We actually had people show up via Zoom at one of our meetings. And it was really interesting because, you know, we were new at it. Sorry, I have allergies. And it was really fun to play with the screen, but it actually worked and it was pretty cool. So it was really surprising because you don't ever expect that. You don't think people are reading the notices that you put out or whatever. But
Oh, this one to be on.
I had to shut mine off because
This is formal.
Speaker.
This is informal.
I'm here with him.
So
She's
I
there.
can talk a little bit about, because I'm not from Cache County and we have been doing meetings in person. However, if you're feeling really picked on with these Zoom meetings, doing meetings in person, we are spreading our council members 6 feet apart so they each have their own individual banquet table. We we clean very thoroughly before the meeting, then we put a tablecloth down for them. And then we have our meeting, and then we remove the tablecloths. We get to go home and launder those. So there are downs to each end of this. It is nice to have them all there and in person. And when things were really heated up, we did have the Zoom option, but we always had, like Pam and I were talking about having a chat feature available to the public. And maybe that could be some part of the discussion as well, as if you keep that chat function open at all times, or if it's only just during a public comment period. Up in Nibley City, it was just during our public comment period, so we keep that chat open. But that might be a discussion topic.
Yeah, and that was a concern I had, because if you keep it open all the time, you can lose your decorum in your meetings, because people are constantly commenting, and then somebody might want to, you know, oh, so-and-so has a great comment, and they're not even on the council. It was somebody else that said it. So it is very distracting. It does that. And I know we have a raised hand, but let me read a couple of the comments that have come in and through the chat. It says, somebody says, we are doing ours in person and via Zoom if people want to attend virtually, which is exactly what we're doing right now. Same, but we use GoToMeeting. That's another option. Can you tell, whoops, sorry, that jumped. Give me a second. Can you tell us what the changes are on the electronic meetings? If you go to state code, what I tell you was that 52.4.202.1 and 2, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I
102, 102, 102.
201 and 202 or 102. We'll get that. We wrote it down. We'll get that to you. It's in my
52, no. Is it
52.4,
203?
201 and 2 and 3. And look at the electronic meetings and stuff. They did an update in June, the legislature did. So that's an answer to that one. Somebody says we are doing Zoom too, and I've thought about connecting to Facebook Live. Has anyone tried that? We have not. Somebody says we use the stream via Facebook, but switched to our website system. It is only for streaming, though, so we wouldn't have to monitor the comments and such. Now, you're still going to get a lot of comments through Facebook Live, and if you don't respond to them, it's probably not an issue, but everybody is going to see those comments just like you can here on Zoom. You can see everybody's chats if they send it to everyone. How hard is it to turn on and off the chat?
So it's very easy. The host just has to go in and turn that on and off, and it can be toggled very easily. We have a member sitting there that's kind of just in charge of keeping that in check.
Yeah, okay. And then somebody else says they're not sure about Facebook because their IT people run everything. But those of us that are the IT people, it's really fun. We do the Zoom and we have the in-person, and then we also have a different recording system, and then they want it to go out to YouTube, and I'm running 2 different computers and 2 to 3 different systems at the same time. So I'm having a lot of fun in my meetings, let me tell you. So when the public's not there, I really appreciate it. But Annette, can you, or somebody, or Nick, Alicia has her hand raised?
Can somebody unmute Alicia?
Can they raise?
I think can you hear me?
There you go.
Okay, yep.
Go ahead.
So I was just going to comment on the, we just started doing the no anchor site location. So we don't have a hybrid. And we have decided we are doing Zoom. We tried GoToMeeting, kind of like Zoom better. But we had some people jump on, inappropriate comments were made. I mean, Hideout's not exactly the town favorite right now, or the state favorite right now. But anyway, so we had some very inappropriate comments and video made. So how are people addressing not being able to? So I've turned chat off for everybody. So nobody can chat during our work meetings and our work sessions and things. How are people addressing that? When people want to raise their hand and then they get on and then start running their mouth, and it's like, we're not talking about the annexation tonight. We're talking about this other thing that, you know, how do you kind of monitor that? And then I just also wanted to say too, we're just starting to get into doing the Facebook, or not Facebook, but YouTube streaming. We had our planning commission meeting the other night, and tried out a YouTube live stream, and it worked really well. Turned off the chat on that as well, because it was just a work session, not a public input session. And I just wanted to, you know, plug that as well. So it integrates with Zoom really well.
Yeah, and there is, if you get the whole thing, you can invite them in without the opportunity to unmute themselves and to show their video. There's some options that are available through Zoom. I'm not sure on GoToMeetings because we started those and then went to Zoom as well. But you can shut those things on and off, but the host has to do that, and the host has to set it up right.
That's how we do ours.
So that it is controllable, but they have to control it. They have to make sure they're vigilant on that, because there's so many pieces with it. Sharing your screen, seeing if somebody's raised their hand, seeing if somebody, is in the chat. There's so many pieces that go on with that. You have to have somebody that can stay on top of that, and maybe not have your city manager or your recorder or somebody be the host, but have an IT person if you've got one that could be the host, like we've got today.
And we also,
That's kind of
they
what we've
only
been doing.
talk, yeah, we only allow them to talk during public comments or a comment period we have, and we don't open it up until they can either type it at that time and we read it and someone will answer it, or if they want to speak, we open it up so they can speak during that time. So they're not disturbing and interrupting the meeting at inappropriate times.
Okay. And that's kind of what we've been doing as well. Just telling everybody, at the appropriate time, you need to raise your hand. Here's the directions on how to do that. It seems to be working pretty well so far, but I just wondered if anybody else had any suggestions, especially with like Facebook live streaming and keeping those comments appropriate and friendly.
Yeah, we've got somebody else that's raised their hand.
Laura Oscarson. Nick, can you let her in?
I've asked her to unmute, so whenever
Okay.
she's ready.
I'm unmuted, I think. So we had some of those same concerns when we first started using Zoom, and we just set it up, our meeting really tight. We don't allow comments at all, and we don't allow the chat. If they want to make public comment through writing, then we have them send me an email. We also, they have to request a meeting ID. So they can't just be listening and then decide to make it off the, they can't just decide to talk. We just barely opened public comment as a thing on our agenda. Before, they could only comment during the public hearing portion, but we just opened that. And I think we've had one person comment, which has been really nice, actually. It makes our meetings a lot shorter. But yeah, I would just go through and make sure you just kind of think what's the worst case scenario, and then do everything you can to mitigate that so that you don't have the inappropriateness. And we don't even allow our council members to show video. So if they're at home, it's just their name on the screen. We don't have video at all. And then we do share, the council members can be co-hosts, so they can mute and unmute themselves, but that's really about it.
Yeah.
Kind of on that same line, we've chosen to show what we're showing the council on the screen during the meeting time. So, and the public has found that very beneficial. So you've got the discussion going on, and they've got a direct view from their computer screens or tablets of, the PowerPoint
content.
Presentation.
Yeah.
And they've actually really, we've gotten very positive feedback.
That's nice about that you can share those screens through Zoom. We have one more. We have another comment. It says, how do you cut public comment off after their time? For an example, 3 minutes ends. Do you show a timer on the video feed?
I'm really blessed with a mayor that controls those meetings.
Yeah, you have to have one.
He always says, your 5 minutes are about up, or you've gone over, please wrap it up. Or at the same time, he wants to be very transparent, and that's what they're about. And they do want to hear from the public.
Yeah,
So we
50 of them sitting there.
have those opportunities for them to speak when they have,
Only 24 of us on
at
right
the
now.
beginning or the end of the meeting, or during a public hearing, but on some of our agenda items, we put public comments because we want to know what they think about these if they've had the public hearing in the land use authority. So anyway, we haven't had any problems yet.
Yeah, well, we just had the one that our meeting just the other night where it turned into a hotter topic than we anticipated, and one person kind of dominated the questions, but we allowed them to speak because it is a public hearing. So we allowed them to speak because we do that in an in-person meeting.
Right.
But we've got to find a way to shut those off. You can, but like I said before, it's having one person that monitors that and say time and then just mute them.
Yeah.
You have that ability, you do that. A lot of cities I know are set up that way, that they just mute the microphone after the time is up. So
I've been real fortunate. The people that have in ours are really respectful of that. So.
You have another comment?
Thing
oh, do we
we've
have another comment?
done at the league, just because we have had the worst case scenario happen. I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the pandemic, we had a Zoom call that was Zoom bombed from random attackers from outside because we had shared a meeting link through Facebook that just anyone could find, and it was a meeting. What we did was switch over, and right now we're in a meeting, and that's why we can all see each other and talk. But we switched it over to the webinar package, where all of our board members, or it would be council members for you folks, are panelists, and they receive panelists invites. So they have the ability, they have to log in link, and they have the ability to share and video and that stuff. But anyone in the public has to register for the webinar. So we have their email address and name, and then they come in as attendees, which have different abilities as far as how to engage. They can raise their hand, we can unmute them, that sort of thing, but they really can't take over like we had happen the first time around. So it costs more, but that's been really effective for all the meetings we've been hosting through this whole thing.
Thank you,
Pays
Nick.
off, yeah.
That's
That
great.
we do that same
Great
thing.
advice.
See something to spend your
Yep.
gas money on.
Yeah, and we had a closed session the other night as well, and that's what made me nervous. And so we sent out a private link to our council and the staff that were invited to that closed session, and we actually did it through Zoom. I was a little nervous about that, but it seemed to work out all right. But we do have another comment. It says, we do not allow the public on the electronic meeting. They can provide comment in person or at City Hall or online with a form we have on our website. They can watch the meeting via stream. So I don't know, comments on that? Do people have thoughts on that? Not allowed to participate in the electronic portion of the meeting?
Well, if it's a public hearing, you pretty much have to let them say their piece. I mean, that's in the code. So,
And they should be allowed to make public comments either at the
Correct.
first of the meeting or the end of the meeting.
I agree.
But they still have a limited time, don't they?
Right.
Yes, you can
Yes.
still limit their time, but
And
I
it-
think they need to be allowed to participate.
and
Yeah.
if you
Or
have,
like
if you have a
live.
good presiding officer, it usually goes really well because they'll keep track of the time and they'll, stop them, especially if people keep saying the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
Hey, Pam, do you want to talk a little bit about the written determination and the anchor location and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, we can go back to that because somebody asked about the code that was changed. For our code, we changed it so that an electronic meeting, the chair or mayor could call an electronic meeting. You really do have to get 3 members, so majority of your members to agree to that electronic meeting. However, you have to hold it with an anchor location, meaning one person is there, and ours says the recorder, and I have to unlock the door and I have to allow the people to come in, the public to come in and participate and watch it and be able to see the council electronically. That's one piece of that electronic code. The other one is the emergency meeting piece of the electronic code. And so the mayor, chair, whoever, same system, but it's all electronic. You don't have to unlock the door. You don't have to have an anchor location. But in order to do that, with the change in the state code, is the mayor has to make a determination, a written determination that says why they're calling this emergency meeting. It has to be for good reason, like this particular one obviously is for the pandemic. I know there's several cities, North Ogden has one, does Cedar Hills, anybody else in here have one? Anyway, I know they have one. It has to be read at the beginning of the meeting. It's good for 30 days. And then it has to be rewritten, so to speak, or just redone saying, hey, I'm making this determination again. That's an emergency meeting is where they classified that. So you have 2 different types of electronic meetings that could happen according to the updates they made in the state code, which Vineyard, for those that don't know that I work for Vineyard, we went in and changed that code. I was not I knew they had made the change, but I didn't realize we needed to change our code to match it. And so that's what we went in and did that in our code. So you can find that on our website if you want to see what we did, or just go to the state code and see how it's written. Does that help? Any questions on that one? It's pretty simple, actually. You still do all your notifications just like you would. Even, I know you asked a question yesterday, was asked about the emergency meetings. Are they the same as an electronic meeting for the noticing and all that? It's all the same. You've got to get it noticed appropriately. An emergency meeting you would notice as soon as you can through all the regular channels.
Is there any questions? There's
Oh, does somebody? Yep.
It's Pam Spencer from Vineyard.
Yeah, somebody asked who I was, so that's because they didn't switch the screen to see that I was talking, but it's confusing people. That's okay.
They found you.
Yep. So do we have another topic we want to go for? Wait, there we go.
I don't know, we could talk all day.
Does Leanne want to talk about what people are spending CARES Act money on?
I don't have my list.
That's a city manager topic.
That's so
We just
true.
do what we're told.
That's right.
Anybody have any questions about grandma requests or noticing or
Annexation.
anything? We're here.
Posting, did you get all your questions for those that attended on that public notice website and your website and things where you need to post it and how soon you need to post it? Did everybody get those questions answered yesterday?
Guess so.
Everybody's doing good, it looks like.
Okay.
Nick, do you have anything you want to say to us? Anything you want to bring up?
Well, I'd like to get some feedback from everyone, just how the virtual experience has gone this week. For folks who've maybe attended other virtual conventions, how things are kind of working out for everyone, how we're doing for you. That's of interest to me. But yeah, that's all I'd really be interested to know.
Well, yesterday, Recorder's Day, we pretty much ran our own show. Denise, our education director, set everything up through her city's Zoom account. So we kind of controlled that ourselves. So it went really well.
Yeah.
But
Excellent.
as far as I know, all the other sessions that we've listened in that you guys have been hosting have
Yeah.
gone really well.
They've been well. We did our Institute and Academy with SSU, SUU, excuse me,
in June.
in June, and it went really well. We were a little nervous in the beginning, but everything went well.
Yeah, they did something really cool. They had like a little studio hub at SUU. It was like a little room where they filmed anybody who wanted to present there instead of presenting from your location. So it was like being in a little movie studio, and they had like their IT guys there and stuff. So we have to commend them. It went really well.
It did.
For 5 whole days.
And speakers and
Breakout sessions, everything. I think
Awesome.
for the most part, it went really smooth.
it did.
You know, gonna have a glitch here and there. It's
But
not fun if you
Yeah.
don't.
Again, we got the feedback from everybody. We hope this is just temporary, because it's the networking and being,
Yeah.
with each other is the best part of these conferences.
Yeah.
So Nick, yours has gone well.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's a totally different experience. We don't the number one when we survey our attendees as well as our sponsors, education is obviously very high. Like actually going to the workshops is what they value most at the conference. But networking is always 1 or 2, and for our sponsors as well, it's that in-person interaction. So when they say, "Yeah, you can do everything you can do at a conference except for the thing that everyone wants the most," just gotta go with it. So we're all figuring it out. This is how our professional lives have kind of shifted, and yeah, I think we're getting the swing of it.
Thank you. We have some now comments going on here. Somebody says that they're new and haven't taken the grandma test. Which one do you recommend?
Well, if you're new, because there's two tests, one is about grandma and the other one's about records management. I would say take the grandma one because you're gonna need to, that's a more complex, complicated law. You're gonna need to know as much as you need to know about that. Once you get that down, which, I mean, I've been doing it for 12 years. I don't know everything, but then move on to the records management one if you want. You don't have to take both. You only have to take one.
Okay, then, okay. And people are asking about ranked choice voting, and I'm gonna get to that in just a second, but there is some stuff on the bottom and that, hold on a minute, because that's a big topic and I can talk for a while on that if you're not careful. Somebody did say, Nick, though, did you see that comment? They would have liked to have just paid for the Recorder's Day and not for the whole conference. Not had to pay for the whole conference, so a couple people comment about that. There were some.
Yep.
So if that
Yep,
happens.
we get that, and that's, if we go virtually again, if we're forced to, that's definitely something we can look at. Typically, we do have that option in the live setting, but our entire funding model and everything was kind of blown up by going virtual. So we did keep it. We tried to keep it a relatively simple registration. So that's where that ended up. But definitely, we totally understand, and we'll continue to do that in the live setting. And if we have to go virtual again, that's something we can look at for sure.
Yeah, and then somebody else also commented about it being on the same day as the Women's and Local Government Day. And I get that issue, but the same issue was we were going to have our conference this same week. So this is our usual week for our annual conference. And so there were a lot of conflicting things that we're going to go on this week. So unfortunately, we can't always plan everything, right? Because I know you guys switched over to the Salt Palace and this was the week they had available. So
right,
so we
and
understand
we had
all
conflicts with the the International City Management Association as well when they switched theirs, and yeah,
yeah.
2020, right?
Yep. Welcome to 2020, everybody. So now we're going to go back to those fun ranked choice voting questions that were asked. Yes. Somebody.
So the women's and local government were separate webinar classes offered yesterday. That would have been interesting as an mostly all women's association. So that's what she meant, not necessarily there's another conference going on.
And you know, when I first saw that also, because I've gone to those when I've gone to the league in years past, and there's so much information, and I felt bad that it was the same day also. So maybe we just bring that up with the league. Their conference won't be the same time as ours next year.
Yeah, we did make sure of that before we set ours up. I contacted them to make sure that we were going to have a conflict next year. And so hopefully we won't the next year, but I'll keep tabs on that so that we can get those set up appropriately. So now to ranked choice voting for anybody that.
And before we get
go ahead.
started with ranked choice voting, let me tell you that Pam's going to tell you her side of it, but it doesn't mean we all agree, but we all agree that we all have our own side to it, and it's all right.
That's exactly it, and that's totally it. We went with it. I did a lot of research first before I even presented it to council to say, how do you think about it? Our mayor is all for it. She helped me promote it in her own way, but she was for it. And so I presented it, got council on board in December of 2018, and then 2019, they wanted to revisit it. That was their idea. And so then I re-presented it even after getting even more research done on it. We did hold a ranked choice vote. We did not have to have a primary. The candidates didn't even declare till August. So they had a shorter campaign time. They were all on the ballot. They did change the legislation so you could hold a primary if you wanted to narrow down the list so it wasn't like 20, 30 people on that general election ballot. But for us, it saved us money. We spent a little bit more this time than we did the time before, but we had a couple thousand more voters because of the growth, but also the election before that where we had the long lines through the county, and people wanted to vote on the medical marijuana and on the Medicaid, and so there were some big issues, and I'm sure a lot of those people did not vote at the last election, and so, but it did save us in the long run money and time. The state was phenomenal in working with us through Utah County, and the Utah County has done a 180 on how they're working with the municipalities. They were able to get all the new equipment for us. They got the legislature changed so that they can help any city in the state run a ranked choice election. It went really smooth. We hardly had any questions. I did a couple demos. First, I did a booth at our summer celebration, and we did the mock election, and then I had a couple demonstrations, and first one, only the candidates showed up, and I'm going, well, why do you think nobody's here? And they said, because they get it. Everybody we have talked to understands it, and they're all for it. So we have a young demographics for the most part. I had one complaint, but that person complained about everything. So why? Because they didn't want the changes. They didn't want vote by mail. They, so they didn't want ranked choice voting, but I think it went really well. The county did a great job of showing how they counted it and how the count works and everything. And then, but also working with the state, they hired a marketing firm that they paid for that did some videos. And I know I sent a few people the links to our videos and things in my comments. I'd be happy to, anybody else that wants to reach out to me, I can forward you everything I've sent.
Why don't we put those on the UMCA website?
We could do that. We'll put some stuff on the website, our UMCA website as well. With that information, and yes, it's up to you guys, it's up to your cities, whether you do it or not. It's a pilot program. You've got 2 more election cycles to do it. You have to have the state lieutenant governor's office has to know by April 15th, I believe it is, of the election year, if you're going to do it or not. But I mean, I could talk all day, and we don't have that kind of time on it. Pros and cons and all that. I think it went really well.
Now, I received some phone calls from some of you about ranked choice voting. And like I said, we all have different opinions about it. And even the Utah League asked me how the city recorders felt about it. And I felt like as city recorders, we are not elected officials.
Correct.
We don't make that decision. Our elected officials do. So I don't, to send that out and say, well, this is how the recorders feel. I don't think our association should do that. And, but when they came around a few years ago to my city council was very gracious, and they presented their information. We had the county here, the county come and present their information. But I appreciate that my city council respected me enough to ask me how I felt about it. And I gave them my opinion on how I felt about it, and they voted from there which way they would go. So I think as recorders, we need to be a little bit careful about pushing something that our city councils might not want.
Yeah, and I didn't push it. I presented it.
Right.
And the council members did ask me point blank, how do you feel about it? Do you think this is, I'm going to trust your judgment, is what came back from a couple of them, which, made me feel good. But I think it's because I did my due diligence. I looked at the pros and the cons. I got a huge packet in the mail from somebody, I believe it was from San Francisco, anyway, about why they didn't think it would work. And so there are pros and cons to it, and you guys just have to do your own research on it and determine, because if your council, they are the ones that are choosing to do this, but they have to have you on board with it.
Yeah. Our council, when it first came out, was very interested, but we didn't want to be the guinea pigs. I'm in the same county as Pam, Utah County. And so 2 cities in Utah County did it, and it went really well. So it looks like Cedar Hills is probably going in that direction, which is fine. It's not my decision, but it's just good to hear that you weren't bombarded with a ton of people who didn't understand what was going on, and that our county is so supportive. We're really lucky in that way.
We are so lucky, because if anybody knows about Utah County,
The past history.
governor didn't have anything nice to say with the past clerk's office. So This new clerk's office has night and day difference, 180-degree
So
turn
Pam,
on supporting us.
did you have to buy special equipment to do that? Did
The
your county have
county
to buy it?
purchased the equipment. They had extra everything. They bought all new printers, scanners, the equipment to actually run it, just a regular election. And then they added the module to do the counting for the ranked choice voting.
Where
and stuff.
Sanpete is so small, our county does the counting for every city in the county. And they're still doing it by hand, paper votes. They don't have the equipment and we don't have the money to do it, so I don't think that's anything that will be coming our way anytime soon.
And the issue is though, is that's why they changed it in the legislature, that any county can help any city in the whole state run their ranked choice election. So Utah County was more than willing to help those cities in Salt Lake County that had looked into it originally. I know there was one, I believe, in Davis County that had looked into it as well, but they all waited. And you guys mentioned being the guinea pigs, and that's something our council said. And I said, we're not guinea pigs. We're not the first ones to try this. Yes, we're the first ones in Utah to try it. But I did all my research to look at the other cities and states that have done it, the pros and cons.
And
like I
Laura
said.
Oscarson just said Salt Lake County just got approval for new equipment that will run ranked choice voting.
There you go. So now Salt Lake County will be able to do it if
So-
anybody
so it sounds like-
chooses to do so.
My particular county was not supportive, so I could use Utah County.
Yes, correct. And now that Salt Lake County has it, if they get that new equipment, you would be able to use Salt Lake County as well.
Yeah, our current county clerk is very pro ranked choice
Mhm,
voting,
she
so
is,
she's
yeah.
supportive of
Justin.
everyone.
Justin, what's his last name?
Yeah. It's one of those generic names like Anderson or something, that's why you don't remember it.
Sorry,
Smith.
Justin.
Smith.
If you see this, I apologize. Yeah, we were just discussing our memories here, so.
Or-
Anyway.
Or lack of.
It does sound like there's quite a few that will be moving in that direction, or
Yeah.
at least talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
Well,
are.
Politicians love it. And plus the fact that you don't have to have a primary.
You don't have to have a primary, and I didn't even go into details about it.
There is
because-
one thing that concerns me is you can't use ranked choice voting during a presidential election.
And it's not funny.
So every other year,
Mhm.
you will be doing it one way.
Mhm.
That is a big
For
concern
now.
for me.
For now,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
have if on the federal level, I kind of, it
Yeah.
piques
I
my
just-
interest when I hear stuff about it. They are looking into it on a federal level. And so it's not impossible that won't come along at some point in time. It's, obviously a little late now for this one.
We're
but-
just way more progressive. than
Yeah, we are,
Yeah.
federal.
because, we started vote by mail how many years ago?
6.
Yeah, 6 at least.
2013.
And
Well, some food for thought I have is our demographic, the voters that do come out are older. So I
correct,
can
and
actually
that's,
see there being some pushback with the older.
and
demographic.
that's who we got the pushback
Yeah.
from, the one person. She was,
And like she said, they're a younger community. They're
they get it, and in fact, not to open a can of worms, but our mayor would like to go with electronic voting. And they have that out there now. It's an option for those that are
Yeah.
absentee, but it has to be specific. That's the disabilities, or they're actually out
Okay,
of the
we've got-
state
in the state of
overseas.
Utah, there is no more absentee ballot.
No, it's all
There-
vote by
it's all
mail,
vote by
yes.
mail.
But I'm just saying though, the code says that they have to be they have to be out of the state, or there's certain things, they need
To
the
qualify,
ADA
yeah.
piece in order to qualify overseas, things like that, because it wouldn't get their ballot back in a timely.
But
So they can do it electronically though.
eventually, everybody, this younger generations likes to do everything on an app
It's
on
gonna
their
be
phone.
electronic.
So,
It will
Yeah.
be. It's coming,
Yeah.
people. Just be prepared. It's coming. We're vote by mail now. It may go statewide that you don't have an option. I know some of the rural communities have
We're all
issues
vote by
with their
Are you?
mail getting to them in a timely manner, and that is a problem. But I know they've looked at that in the legislature. Nick, you familiar with seeing that at one point in time about the whole state going vote by mail and having the counties run elections? I know that had come up at one point in time. I don't know where that stands right now. But, so it's coming though, then electronics next. Electronic voting, and I'm pro, so I don't know if I'm forward thinking what you would want to call that, but
Electronic voting.
Electronic voting
It's
is
just the
going to be the next
security
step.
concerns.
Yeah, and there's always going to be security concerns. They've had them with vote by mail. Well, they do mail fraud. Well, they verify signatures and they
We
have
had them with
certain.
the dangling chads.
Yeah, yeah. Thank goodness we don't have to deal with dangling chats. There
Everybody
you
can
go.
understand that.
Oh, no, sorry.
If you don't understand it, we can talk
That
about
means
that
you're
later.
really young.
That was Florida.
That was Florida, not here. Exactly. So.
But I mean, just to even know what a Chad was,
Yeah.
that it could even dangle.
Just
Just
there you
saying,
go.
just
Just
saying.
saying. That's an issue, right? Okay, and I know I could have talked a lot more about that, go into a lot more details about all that, but please go on our website, go to my election page if it's still up. If not, I can send you the link to our video that they did for us, and there's Payson also had one, but we'll put that, we can also put that on the UMCA website, and you can watch our video. We had input on that video, trust me, because I looked out there and I didn't like any of the videos I saw throughout the country, and I said, here's what I want on it. And they made a few changes. It's not exactly what I thought it should be, but it's so much easier to understand the way they did it. So,
Good job.
yeah.
We'll be borrowing it.
Yeah.
Why reinvent
Well,
the wheel?
why reinvent it? They'll just create, no, but, and the legislature, the state saved money from that, from the money that they were given through the legislature to promote this. They saved some back because they only had the 2 cities. So it's not all spent. Hopefully it's still available. It better be. For the cities that would like to do it this next election cycle so that they can create their videos. All they have to do is change the name of the city in the video. That's really as simple as it is because the video doesn't change anything else about it. But then we have a whole web page where they've got all the links to all the different pieces of it and then where they talk about it and why it's good and that kind of stuff.
She
So
was right.
got
She
that
could talk
linkage.
about this all day.
I could. I've become passionate about it because I did do all that research and I did look into
That's
it. And
awesome.
we ran the election. It was successful. So.
Well done. Well done. Is there any other questions about different other things that you'd like to speak about or hear about, or someone's talking? I can't see who it is.
Do we have somebody?
I thought they were.
Oh, I just see you. Nick, are you still there? Hello,
He
Nick.
fell asleep.
I am indeed.
Did you fall asleep? Oh.
No.
I'm just
Just
kidding.
couldn't get a word in.
Not yet.
Well, I warned you. That's why I waited. But Nick, can you tell me, do you know any more about this, having the whole state do vote by mail and having the counties help run the municipal elections through the legislature? Has that come up again?
You know, I haven't caught any wind of it from our ledge team, but that doesn't mean that conversation's not happening up there. I'll follow up with Wayne Bradshaw, our policy director, and Victoria Ashby, our director of government relations. They'll know. Just in conversations with them, I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it's not slowed necessarily, but there was that kind of heated discussion about it.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe simmered down a little bit, but it's definitely still out there. And with the more stories that come out, I feel like this election year might, have an effect on the narrative towards mail-in ballots. Not so much in our state because we've gotten used to it in a lot of places, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But I'll talk with Wayne and Victoria and have them follow up with your board.
Yeah. And sorry, I can keep going. How about the legislation that was a few years ago that we all voted, as recorders, we voted no on, for all municipalities to be required to video or live stream their meetings? Have you heard anything? Has that ever come back up?
I've not actually heard any of that come back up, even with what we're all going through right now. I do remember a couple years ago and was a little more involved on the legislative side then, that we put a pretty good hard quash on that. Just the technical capabilities of every type, city and town, and then additionally every type of government, like we're an interlocal. It was just the fiscal note was just too huge. So I wouldn't be surprised if after we've all done this for over half a year,
Yeah.
and doing stuff like this, that might come back up. But yeah, I think that conversation was kind of dead in its tracks with the fiscal note.
Okay. Sorry, I just have one more question that came up. They wanted to know about a recount on our ranked choice voting, better known as RCV. And no, there's no recount because you have to win by more than 50% of the vote. 50% plus one vote. You have to win by at least that margin. So there's no recount necessary.
So it does save a lot of money.
It does save money and time. It really does. At least it did for us. So anyway, new topic.
It's
see
Friday,
any
everybody wants to go
questions.
home.
I know they do. They want to be done.
Oh, there's one.
Go home.
One in the
They
chat.
are home.
Oh, somebody wants to
I
chat?
heard that you can't. Oh, that was that. You
That was
just
one I
answered
just
that.
answered,
Okay.
yeah. Somebody else's turn.
If we don't have any more questions, we
Can sign off. I mean,
can sign off. And any more questions? Well, I don't see any. Oh, no,
Brooke.
don't see any.
Brooke
Can I put a
unmuted.
plug in? Can you guys hear me?
Sure,
Oh, you know what? There's my video. Hi, everyone. Plug in Utah Women's Leadership Project organization with Dr. Susan Madsen. Just finished a research project of women in leadership in cities and towns, and it's going to be released on October 6th. So if you want to go to their website, there's a bunch of data available and information about city and towns. It's the first time that any state has ever done it. So just one
wow.
put a plug in for that.
Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, we're the first state that's ever done a research topic like that for cities and towns. So
That's great.
And
We'll be
most of you would have gotten an email asking you questions about this.
yeah, you should have, all of you should have received some sort of request for data. So
okay.
All right, well, let's let you go, and
We wish you well.
we'll see you in the spring at Institute and Academy.
Yep, hopefully live.
No, it's
yeah.
going to happen
Yes.
live.
Yeah, keep your fingers crossed. In the meantime, we're here to
Eyes
help. If
closed.
you have any questions, feel free to contact any of us.
Yep, and feel free to reach out to me, any of those that hasn't already reached out to me about the voting options.
Okay, we have a question.
Oh.
Can you tell us the dates for the Utah League of City and Towns Conference and Recorders Conference next year? Ours is September
22nd or 3rd?
22nd, 23rd. It's the 23rd
through the 5th.
through the 25th.
Is that-
And I believe Utah Leagues is the
That's
week
this
before
year.
that.
That's
It's
this
the
year.
week after they're aren't they
The
the
li-
29th
the-
to October 1?
Nick?
Yes, so
What?
we jump into October for the first
Okay.
time.
Yes, and we're
Just
the week
pulling up
before
the
that.
We're the
actual
week
dates.
before and they're the week
Yeah,
after.
sorry, I'd look up the dates right this second, but I'm on full
All
screen.
right, so
But yeah, they don't go together this year. I made sure
Are
next
you
year.
asking about the dates for our Region 8 conference?
Yes.
yes,
Okay, that's September 22 to 24,
Oh,
Okay.
that was
2021,
it.
Park City at the
Yep.
URO.
yeah, that's right.
At the DoubleTree up there, so
22 to 24.
it's gonna be good. I hope everybody can come. We're excited.
And the
That'll
leagues
get
will be
good.
that next week, September 29th through October 1st.
Yeah,
At the
Okay.
Salt
Because
House in
yeah.
Salt Lake.
We're trying to coordinate with you so we never do a double whammy again.
Yes,
we
indeed.
don't want that to happen again.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us, Nick. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
Yeah, appreciate all of you. Thank you very much.
All right.